How's it going, everybody? CityZilla here in our lovely city of Crater Lake. And in today's episode, we're going to be working on our university as well as kind of building out some of the neighborhood around it. I think we have a really big opportunity with the area that has a bunch of trees and everything. And I kind of want to do something with levels. A lot of times with differing terrains like this, it can be kind of easy to just draw a road out and continue on with your same grid. And I know in my previous builds we did this a lot, and I'm really trying to focus more on this whole terrain difference thing. And I think it's a really big opportunity to kind of create some interest and make it look just really cool. And so we are going to also be trying a kind of a different style in recording. And so let me know what you guys think. I'm going to be skipping over a lot instead of doing the time lapses. And then I'm going to be trying to focus a little more on explaining what I'm doing and using some of the mods and some of the things that I do in my builds to make my life a little bit easier or to give me more of a fine tuning with a lot of the roads or things like that. And so I did also want to say thank you to all the new subscribers and to everybody who's been supporting me. The last couple of weeks have just been really crazy. It's definitely been the biggest growth in our channel since I started it. And so for small creators, it can definitely be tough getting out there and getting noticed. And so for us to be at almost at 500 subscribers is a huge deal, and we're going to get the community unlocked at that point. And so I'll be able to do polls and actually do posts in the community tab. And so I'm super excited about it. And so thank you all for the likes, comments, and shares. And I know I don't mention it a lot, but I'm going to try to be mentioning liking the videos just a little bit more, just because it really does help the videos to get out there more, and it kind of sends a message to YouTube that it's a good video. But watching them does as well. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. And so the first thing I want to do is kind of look at the terrain that we're messing around with. And so we had built out this neighborhood over here with these three kind of plateaus, but they're smaller neighborhoods. And so what I wanted to do was create kind of like a multi-level plateau kind of look over here. And so we're going to jump into the landscape tool and go to the level terrain. And before we jump into that, I'm actually going to delete this guy. And then before we forget, I'm just going to connect it up real quick just because the city losing power is not very, very good. And so we're going to jump into the level terrain tool. And then all I'm going to do, and this, super easy. I do have the extra landscaping tool mod, super useful. It allows you to change the different brush sizes. And I'm going to be doing a link to all the mods used in this build as well. And so if you're interested in any of the mods, you can go over to the Steam Workshop and kind of look at my list and then pick through them. Getting into mods can definitely be a little bit iffy. It's easy to kind of get almost like addicted to them, where you just start downloading so much stuff, and then it just becomes a little harder for your game once you start having so many of them. And so what I'm doing here is leveling this out. And I think what we'll do is probably go like this and then take this over to the right and probably go like right there. And I want to create kind of like an edge right there. And then I'm going to go over to the slope tool and right click my desired bottom slope and then just go down. And I really only want this to be wide enough for about a road and a couple paths. And then we're going to jump back over to the level terrain tool, right click on the road, as I want this to kind of be the entrance for this area. And then we're going to just create almost like a square plateau over here. I still do plan for us to do some oil fields over here to the right, though now that we've kind of created some upscale neighborhoods, I really don't know how realistic that would be, but I think we're still going to do it. And so I think maybe this is just a little too big. I think we will bring this out and then bring our slope out a little more too, because I don't want this to be too small up here. I think that's probably better. And then so right click at the bottom, just kind of go it up and down. I think that's good. And so now what I want to do is go over to our roads, and I'm just going to choose a 4-unit road. And I have a ton of the roads from the Steam Workshop. I primarily use the Vanilla Plus roads. But I do have some others. I'll try to mention some of their creators, but it looks like a lot of these are from Delta 5.1. Really good pack. It involves a ton of roads and a lot of asymmetrics and some of the bigger roads as well. And so it's a really diverse pack. We're going to jump into, I think, I think with the trees in the middle. So like a 4-lane road, kind of like an avenue. And all I'm going to do is go like that. And then I really want this to actually go out. So I think we will just extend this out real quick. Okay. And so all I did was push this out a little bit and then kind of shifted this road so that it was more in line with the main road. And the reason is because I want it to slope up like this. And so we're going to then go over to probably about, yeah, you know what, like right there. And I think that's probably good. And we're going to create another little inlet down here. And I kind of wish, I think it is level right there. So we'll go like right there. And then I'm going to jump into the network multi-tool, which is this little, kind of almost looks like a pocket knife, and go into the create connections mode. And I'm going to click both nodes. And then I'm just going to make sure to click this little edge here, the edge of the road. And it kind of just tells the mod which direction to create the road. And I'm going to do this because I want to do a nice curve. I don't want it to be too crazy though. I think if we go like right there, that's probably good. And so what I'm thinking for this is I really want to do like an upscale university, something that has a lot of walking paths, a lot of plazas, something that's just going to look really good for the area. And if you guys are familiar with my previous university builds, I really like kind of taking these to the next level. I think there's a lot that you can do with schools and to make it a little bit funner. And so I think before we do that, though, I want to do some key walls around this. And so I'm going to jump into the bridges and piers key walls just because it allows walking around the outside. And I just really like having that. And so we're going to probably, I don't know if we need, I think we're going to go all the way to this edge. And I do have key anarchy on, which allows me to do key walls on flat ground. And so if you're interested in building key walls on ground, you definitely need to get that mod. If you're playing unmodded, you unfortunately can't do this. You can use fences and stuff to kind of do artificial key walls, but it doesn't tend to look the same. I'm just going to draw a line up here as well, a little road. And then I'm going to jump into move it, select all the nodes that I want to be at that same height by using shift. And you see how they're all green? Well, then if I hit Control H, it turns the little selector piece white and it'll bring everything up to that level. And that's just something that I use a lot, especially as a hotkey. It's super easy. And it allows you to just bring everything to one elevation so that it's a little bit smoother. And I'm really trying to keep that uniformity here with the level here. I want that to be flat. And so I'm going to jump back over to our little key wall and I'm going to probably go, so that's about 2 squares out. And so I want this to be about the same. I think that's going to be, if we go, yeah, like right there is probably good. And then we'll come out here. And you know what, that actually looks pretty good. I am going to jump back into the landscape tool though and just clean up this key wall. And I don't really want that there. And you know what, that already looks pretty good. I do want to clean up this edge just a little bit though. Yeah, there you go. And it just creates some interest. I like having the ledge there. And this is definitely something that you see in real cities whenever they use height differences like this. The only downside to using these key walls is it does mess up the ground. So building near them is can be kind of a challenge. And I'm just going to do the height difference again. And I'm only going to do it with these last two because it looks like those other ones are already pretty level. And there we go. You see it kind of brought it up a little bit. And you can kind of see this little divot. That's what I'm talking about with the ground. The ground near these key walls, because the game wasn't designed to have key walls on flat ground like this, is always going to be kind of messed up. So like building paths or roads near these is kind of difficult. And then I do want to do one down here as well. And I think for this one, we will just go out from here, go like that and go like that. I'm just going to use the move it mod to tuck this guy in there because I don't want it to snap to that key wall. These are different heights. And so I'm just going to jump into a road, draw this guy again. It's kind of funny. I could have just used that. But then I'm going to select all the nodes and then change the height again with that Control H trick. This thing you can really use to save a ton of time. Movement mod is definitely one of the quintessential mods. You really can't get away without using it, especially once you get used to it. And it is often one of the mods that is most mentioned with console players. Being kind of a cheat with vanilla games, it's just something that you can't do, and so it does change the game quite a bit. I think maybe for this level we'll just go like right there. Yeah, I think that looks better. Instead of having that huge wall, because then you can kind of see it levels out over here too. So it does create another step here without having too big of a drop, which I think is just a little more realistic. And I do want, it looks like we're just going to turn this a little bit and probably go like right there. We could actually, looks like we might need to bring this up more. I think we'll go like right there because what I'm looking for it is to be right on the edge. These key walls you can walk on. There's a walking path on the edge, and so it's best to try and utilize that. And then whenever you have them ending, you kind of want to make it so that they're connected to the road so that people can get up to them. It just makes it so that more people use them, which is ideally what we're trying to do. It creates a nice little vibe and a good look, and I think this looks pretty good. This is kind of what I was looking for with the differing heights, and I think it's not overdone. I'm gonna leave this section open because I think we will end up doing some more residential in here, just because we still do need to expand. We're a little ways away from that next block, which is what I am trying to wait for to do our downtown. And so we need about 10,000 population. So I think we're going to end up building a lot of this out, but we're going to be following those same principles of different heights and stuff. And I think it's going to look cool. I want to do some paths in here, and we're going to try to incorporate some of these neighborhoods into it and everything. And so one of the things that I want to do is do kind of like a fancy parking lot with some paths around it. And then we'll probably even end up putting in like a monument park of some kind, maybe the official park, or just some point of interest at the entrance of the university that just looks really grand. And a lot of times with universities, the landscaping will just be fantastic, and the entire campus will just look really good. And so I want to try to capture that with our build. And so I'm going to use the Find It mod, and I'm just going to punch in parking, and it's going to bring up a ton of roads that offer parking, as well as other various assets that are associated to parking. A lot of these still show up in here, but what I'm looking for is a little bit further in, but it's the big parking lot assets. And these are normally the parking lots I use just because it allows you to create more of a unique parking lot versus just square ones. Because most times with parking lots, it's based off the available space. It's not just like a set, size, unless it's the smaller ones or you're in a big downtown area, and that's where you'll kind of see me use those little square guys. And so I'm just going to draw in a parking lot real quick, and then I'll kind of go over how I decided to choose the design that we did, and then we'll kind of jump back into it, and I'll show you what I want to do. All right, and so I think that is my basic design. And so what I did was I used the main drives under the big parking lots to do these entryways, and then I ended up using the border roads all the way around the outside. And if you go to the upgrade road tool, you can kind of switch the curb. And all this does is makes it so that you just do parking on one side, but then it gives you a nice little sidewalk on the outside. And so I did that all the way around, and then I went into the filler road. And you have to make sure that you're about 1 square away. So whenever you're drawing them out, you always want to have about 1 square in the middle of these two. And what this allows you to do is do a parking lot on both sides. And so once you have that all done, you go over to the actual parking spaces, and it's actually super easy. I think this mod is definitely one of the best for parking lots. And so we will just go like that, go like that, go like that. And I'm going to leave some for I actually want those to be level. I don't really like that kind of messed up right there. It's just because that varying difference on that other side. So we'll go like that, and like that. And we're just going to make some little islands. And then we are going to use some some handicap spots over there. So then over here, we're going to do the same thing. Just go like that. We want it to be in the same place. And that's a little bit over. I thought it was so funny. I thought that looked level, but I guess not. And that's not level either. So I'm going to go ahead and redo these. And there you go. So we'll go like that. And these are just not perfect. These are frustrating. I think I can just use the move it mod and shift it over a little bit. Yeah, there we go. It's just going to bug me if those weren't the same. And so we'll go like that, go like that, go like that. And we'll do the same thing with the handicap spaces. And we are going to do the same thing over here. Just shift it and do the same thing. And it looks like this side is actually not going to. So whenever you get spaces like this, what you need to do is switch over to a one-sided. So we'll go like that. There's not any nodes right there, and so it looks like we're going to have a little bit of an issue. I think what we'll do is actually keep this as an island where we're going to decorate it. I think that's actually going to be a little bit better of an option for this space. And then so we'll come back up here and we will do this again. Though it looks like having a little bit of an issue. I'm just going to use the move it mod and shift it in. And then for these curves, you do kind of have an issue where you can't place them as well. And so we're going to go like that. And then that is a little bit off. I'm actually going to delete that and come in here and just place them down. Man, it looks like it's going to have a little bit of a problem. Yeah, there we go. And we'll put a little island right there. I'm planning on doing a couple little islands for us. And so we'll come over here and kind of do the same thing. If we can get this second one in, we will. If we can't, we obviously don't want to ruin that drive lane. And so we're just going to jump over here and do a couple of them. And we'll probably keep that one empty with another little island. And then I'm going to jump into handicap parking. And we are just going to place these guys kind of on the edge. I normally like to do them on both sides, but a lot of these aren't going to allow us to. And so we're just going to go where it can. And then there's a little clipping remover with these. And so it just allows you to fill in the extra concrete spaces. It's actually super convenient. And just these like dirty kind of spaces. You can also cover them up with landscaping, but it's nice to also be able to remove them. Because in real life, these would obviously be on both sides, but because of issues with it. And there we go. And so that is our basic design for the parking lot. It does kind of look a little messed up with these guys, but we're going to end up putting in planters, and so I'm really not too worried about it. And that's how you can utilize the big parking lots to create some interest and create just something a little bit bigger than a regular parking lot. And because this is a university, that's why I decided to do something this big. Normally, you wouldn't do a parking lot this big unless it was like a stadium or something of this magnitude. And so now what I'm going to do is jump into our paths real quick. And I'm just going to do paths all the way around. And then I'll kind of show you guys why I chose to do some of them the way I did. All right, and so I went ahead and painted it in, and basically what I was trying to do is just have a certain amount of paths connect to this outside and also to the parking lot. And then all I want to do now is kind of paint in the other side. And what I'm thinking is we're going to jump into our roads, we're going to go to the bike roads. We're going to choose that one that has the drawed out lines on it just because I like it quite a bit better than the other one. And we'll go like right there. And we'll come up like right here. And we could also turn that into a curve. But I think we'll go right there and we'll come out. We'll go down 2 and then we'll go like that. Kind of wish, I think we're going to do this as a curve. I think it's going to look a little better. Yeah, there we go. And so we'll end up putting in our main administrative building right there. And then I think we're going to end up doing some dormitories and stuff right here. And so I'm just going to paint in some more paths. Yeah, there we go. I think that's some pretty good access. I ended up putting in path networks down here along this road, even though it is kind of redundancy with the sidewalk. It still creates a nice area for us to be able to put in some trees or something like that. And then I am going to kind of get a little crazy with this. I really want to take this parking lot up to the next level. And so what I'm going to do is go into curbs. I'm going to type in curbs under my find it tool. And I have quite a few of different curb networks. But I'm going to be using this large curb network, and it is by like underscore Mike. And this network's really great. Comes with a wall. You can lift it up, and you can really do a ton with these. With the medium one, you can actually lift it off the ground as well. But you can put this next to roads or paths and just create kind of like an elevated little curb network. It was what I used over here, but we did them really low to the ground. Well, I'm also going to be using this other concrete seating curb network. It's like a marble curb. It's really nice. It's bright white, and it helps you to define certain areas, and it helps you to kind of create some custom planters. And I really like how it looks. And that one is by CCY016. And again, these are going to be under the Crater Lake mods tab on Steam. I'm going to again put a link inside the description, but really great curb network. And then I'm going to use those in conjunction with some grass networks. And what I mean by that is these little guys, I'm going to use some conforming blocks of grass. And what these do is create grass that's kind of off the ground, but they allow you to fill in spaces so that you can do rather large custom planters. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we'll talk about it a little bit when I'm done. This is definitely going to take a little while, but I'm excited for you guys to see it. All right, so this is the final product, and this took quite a while. I used a couple things. It's not too complicated in its use of its strategies. It just takes a lot of time to actually do some of it. So what I did is I ended up using those curve networks, and I basically drew out a pattern. And originally, what I was thinking to do was something a little more complicated than this. But then after kind of playing around with it, I felt like it would just be a little more realistic if I just did the path through rather than kind of having a bunch of little coves that I could have done with the path. And so the path does have access to the outer key wall, but then also the parking lot. And so I put in some foliage, some trees, and then I decided to do these little blocks on the front side. And I ended up putting in some benches, and then a lot of these are trees that I got from the Steam Workshop. And so you kind of just got to hunt down some tree packs. There's a bunch of them on there. And then I used some light foliage for the middle of the planters. And then I went across the street. And this is also the alternative method to actually placing blocks of grass in here, is to just keep the grass as it is. It still looks good. The reason I chose to do the grass blocks was because it allows you to use surface painter to really clean up the edges to make it look like the path is almost a little bit bigger. So I use these conforming blocks of grass by Grooney to basically fill in these planters. And then I ended up putting in some park assets using the Parkify mod. You are able to place these outside of parks, and it just helps to generate some traffic through here so that it looks a little more alive. I do think we're going to end up putting something in these little spaces. I did end up leaving them empty for right now, as I don't have any monuments or anything on hand. But I thought it'd be cool to either, maybe we could just do another fountain or something small in there, but I just haven't decided yet. I did end up putting a couple fountains out here just because I kind of felt like it was a mini plaza. It would be a big kind of open walking space. And I think the two fountains really add some interest. And so what I wanted to do now that we have this kind of grand parking lot, maybe a little too grand, but I think it looks good. I do want to start laying down some of our school assets. And so we're going to use the trade school, since the goal of it is to be kind of right next to the oil fields and everything. And I'm going to put that right there. And then at trade school, it's kind of funny. That looks a little bit bigger than from what I remember it. I thought it was a little bit smaller, but I guess not. And so I do want to place down some dormitories upon on this little road right here. That's kind of why I had made this guy, because I really want to create an area where we're going to get a lot of people walking around the campus. And one of the best ways you can do that is to create walking paths, but then to kind of spread out your dormitories and everything. And it really just helps to make it look alive. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm probably just going to go like this and then terminate it into the road just because it is another avenue. Because it's not a high volume street, we definitely want to make sure that people aren't using this to cut through our area. And so we will have to kind of watch out for that. But I think for right now, that's probably perfect. I think that's a little off, but I think that looks good. And then we are going to come in here and then just place down a couple of these guys. And I know they're not going to be perfect, and it's not really about them looking perfect. It's more about them just being in this space. I think I'm going to shift that guy over just a little bit. I ended up using Anarchy to place that there, but then it kind of was just a little too close. And we could actually put this guy like right there, or maybe shift this guy over a little bit more. Yeah, you know what? I think that looks pretty interesting. And then what we can do is go into our paths and create a path in the back, because we want walkability. And so we'll probably create a path from like right here and then have it cut in the back to like right there. I think we need to do a little bit further. Those bushes are in the way. And the reason I'm doing this again is just walkability. The more paths that you place, the more people will walk. And that's really one of the biggest things that I've just learned from playing so much of this game, is that a lot of times if your people aren't walking a lot, it's probably because you just don't have a lot of walking paths. And so if you want people to stop pulling out their pocket cars as much, just create more paths. And a lot of times they just start using them more. And it's really a simple way to get them to use more paths. Because I didn't have prop and tree anarchy on, I didn't place those. And there we go. That actually looks pretty clean. And so we got 3 dormitories, nice little dormitory row. And then we have our main building, and we can kind of look at what other buildings we unlocked. And so dormitories, the trade school study hall, the trade school groundskeeping, and then the book club. But then I also know that we got one of our bigger buildings. So the police academy, and this guy is a behemoth. We could maybe put it up here on the hillside, which could be interesting, or we can make it our first building down here, though we do have a couple other ones that are going to need to be placed as well. Let's go ahead and see if maybe we can do a nice, because I don't want to fill up this space too soon. I think what we'll do is jump into our landscaping tool, go to level terrain, and just get a nice little plot. I don't want to go too far in because it is going to kind of encroach on some residences that we are going to build in this area, but I do want to go far enough because it's a pretty sizable building. And so, and there we go. And then we will grab our road. And you know what? We could actually just put it off of this guy, because I don't really want to add in another road. I feel like it's going to be a little too tough. So I'm going to go back into our district paint tool and paint campus area. And for all you new people out there, this is part of the campus DLC. So if you don't have the campus DLC, then this is something that you're not really going to be able to do. Definitely is one of my favorite DLCs. So if you're shopping around for a new one, I think it's definitely worth it. So I think maybe we'll go off to the side a little bit. We can always come back and remove that, like move that around. Because what I want to do is still create some path access around the outside. I think it would be a missed opportunity for us to place this too far in. And so I think that's pretty good because we still have room over here. Let's see if we can place this guy down. Maybe we'll do a small little path like that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, you know what? I think that actually looks really good. It works well with the key wall right there, and it's very clean. I am going to go back here and upgrade that road just because we're really using a lot of concrete and the regular paths are concrete, and so kind of makes it look clean, and then it allows us to be able to put in our own decorations. But I think that looks pretty good, and I really like that. I'm just going to place a couple trees in this back area, and in order to do so, you need to have prop and tree anarchy, which is a separate mod. And so Shift P to turn it on, and then it just kind of allows you to place trees in areas you normally wouldn't be able to. And this area right here actually looks like we might be able to put like a path or some sort of plaza in there. I think, did we get a plaza? I think you maybe get the plaza on the next. Yeah, it's the first unlock we get. And so we'll actually have one here soon, but not yet. We do have the book club though, which we could put back here. I think that would be pretty good. And then maybe we could just do the groundskeeping right there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, you know what? That actually looks pretty good. And so I do want to continue on our path over here, just because I feel like this space is a little too empty, and so I would want to maybe put in a couple more dormitories. We could definitely do that since we already have kind of a cluster here. And I think we're just going to come back through and repaint in some of these. And so we'll shift this guy a little closer, just like those other ones. And then we're going to come back into our paths and repaint this guy in. And then now connect that up. I'm going to slide this in just a little bit further so we can get away from that corner node. And we're going to go like that. And you know what? I think that looks pretty good. The change in orientation actually makes it seem a little more realistic. Kind of like they're just filling in the space. But I like that we got them all kind of next to each other. So this would be almost like a dormitory kind of area for the university. Like a student city. It looks really cool. Especially with this huge plaza. I think this whole area is already coming together pretty nicely. And I do want to connect this main road up with some path access. And I think we will end up putting in some of our plazas and stuff that we end up unlocking later on into this. But I am going to go into the network multi-tool, hit the unlock segment mode, and I'm going to go around and unlock the paths all the way around. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can go back in here and actually upgrade them to concrete, since we're kind of going for that whole concrete vibe with this build. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to use the move it mod to shift this a little bit. And if you're ever looking for like a perfect angle, you can always come down here and hit toggle snapping. I use it quite often if I'm trying to get a perfectly straight road or something, but you got to be careful with it because it does sometimes mess up. And so for right now, I think we will just come into our palm trees and do a line probably on the inside. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good. And I think we will unpause now that we do have a school and we've placed all the buildings we need to. I just want to draw in this other grid real quick. And I don't think we're going to go too crazy with this one. You can already hear all the people, all the homes unlocking. That little bell is all the homes as they're upgrading to the next level. It's normally whenever you add a new amenity or maybe like a park or something. And so we will go like this. I'm going to turn on snapping just so I can get that 90-degree angle. And then we'll go like that. We'll go like that. We'll come down like there. And then we'll just come back. And for right now, I think we're going to leave that. We'll probably end up doing some more paths around the outside, probably similar to this since we've kind of already set a trend. And then the goal is to eventually build this out into where this whole campus is kind of this, almost a modern vibe with these planters and a lot of concrete and stuff. But I think this looks pretty good. We should hit our first unlock pretty quick up. So we do need to place down some water pipes. I do place the water pipes under the ground as under the roads as well. I know City Planner Plays was really the first one to kind of pioneer that, and it's just a realistic touch to it. But if you're new to the game, you don't have to. The goal is to actually have as little overlap as possible, as it's a little cheaper if you don't have your water lines overlapping. You just place down some pipes. Once they turn blue, then they're good to go. And there we go. I think that this looks great. Ooh, I think we did mess up the view for these people. Oh wow, yeah, look at them. They like bought this home for the view. And all of a sudden this school moves in, and now, I mean, they gain higher education, but they lose their view because of dormitories. They probably have a huge like backlash for this. They probably would have petitioned to have the university built somewhere else. I wonder if the people in the back still have their view intact. Oh yeah, they're high enough to where they can still see like the Ferris wheel way in the back, and they have a little bit of a view. They can see the mountains. I think these people can still see the mountain. Yeah, so they can still see the mountain over there. They'd have a little bit of a view, but they are kind of looking down into the campus, which is a shame. And so I think that is pretty good for our university. We need to normally wait. We'll come into our little panel and kind of, so we already got campus attractiveness. We needed 200. We're at 275. We need 500 students, which we're probably going to get pretty fast since there's no other universities. We just need 500, which really isn't a whole lot. But the hard part is these academic works. And so we're going to go up into academic works tab. We're going to first off choose a sector to basically donate to, or donate funding for research. And so we will choose IT and engineering just because why not? And then it says give cost is 50,000. So we're just going to give. And I think that slightly increases your chances for an academic work. I'm not entirely certain. I wish I would have looked at that first. And so base chance, academic staff, 0%, building 0%. So there are certain buildings that increase your academic chance possibilities. But then basically every year you are awarded a certain amount of academic works. And so we're just going to bump this up by a little bit. This is pretty expensive. This is a weekly cost. And so we're just going to bump it up to basically give ourselves a little bit of a boost. And so when looking at the policies, we don't have any sports yet, though we will definitely be building out some sports. And I don't really think we have enough money to, yeah, of course it's 0. We really don't have enough money to be able to fund any of this other stuff as of right now. But these are policies that we definitely want to keep in mind as we move forward. We could do free lunch just because why not? It's not a huge cost. And so I think that's it for this episode. We definitely campus builds are normally a multi-episode affair, but I think this is a pretty good start. I really like how it came together. If you guys have any questions for my explanation of how I did this, and I did end up using planters in here too. I placed down some planters with some trees, and I think it looks really cool. I like how it came together. It's definitely a more advanced parking lot, but along with the university, I think it looks really good. And it just kind of, especially with the park assets in there, we should be getting some people already walking. Yeah, like look, this person's already enjoying our nice park. And then they are able to walk out on the quay wall too if they decide to. I couldn't really get this perfect, but let me know what you guys think. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. On the next episode, we'll be working on this sector, but then also waiting for this to kind of upgrade a little bit so that we can keep expanding it. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like button or hit the like button. It does really help the channel to grow and the episodes to reach more people. And I'll catch you on the next episode.